The Metal Gear Solid series has been a phenomenal, revolutionary experience for the video game industry. They basically pioneered tons of mechanics, features, and even the inspiration for cinematics. And right now, in 2025, they have not released a new actual game. And with my community, I am starting this series where we explore all of the best Metal Gear features that have come throughout the 30 plus, almost 40 years of Metal Gear. And on top of that, we're going to be jumping into a ton of the future of what might be Metal Gear Solid as well. In this video, we're going to do the overview so that you can kind of get an idea of what the series will entail as we explore each video game and give you some of the best mechanics, features, and different elements for the series. By the end of it, we will build our own video game within the context of all of these great elements. I encourage everybody to join on that and also leave a comment with some of your favorite features. You can also add some of your worst because we will be making sure to put that into the game. And so we want to talk about what this game is and what it's going to do. But before I do, quick credit to my community. We're going to be giving away a bunch of copies, checking out the comments, and then just selecting people throughout the year. I'm going to give away Metal Gear Solid Delta and any other Metal Gear content. Also have a special Metal Gear thing that you want to keep in touch with in the community tab on YouTube and on my Discord, which is special exclusive Metal Gear items given to me directly by Konami. And we want to also add to this that I'm grateful for Kojima, who was a huge pillar in this series. But I do recognize that Konami was a big role as well. We see Kojima's new work, we see the differences in the experiences, and we understand that Konami helped keep Metal Gear where it needed to be and stay the course instead of veering off into something totally different that we don't know. And so both Konami and Kojima get love from my side. With all that in mind, I do want to kind of explore some of the amazing features throughout all the years of playing these games. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge fan and basically have probably 1,000,000 hours between all of the different games. So I think I have good enough experience to talk about. And the first thing that I want to talk about in general that does make Metal Gear important is the stealth. And it's going to be a long video talking about each part of the stealth, but each of the games have had different elements, from the very basic being able to give you the traditional original Metal Gear, which created the stealth genre and popularized it. But Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2 basically made it so that you had to sneak around and everything wasn't always action, which was such a cool feature. I thought that was amazing, but it wasn't until Metal Gear Solid and they added footprints, being able to hear enemies. You can distract and call up, make noise to bring enemies to you. You can throw items, things like that, that the original Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 helped bring forward. And that stealth element is something that I think, you don't notice in a lot of video games like The Last of Us or many others, but they implement a lot of what Metal Gear brought to the table into their games, and we get something special. And I'm grateful for Metal Gear to offer that, because then I get to enjoy a bunch of other video games that definitely took from the stealth elements. And so hopefully, in the next iteration, they stay true to stealth, as it is 100% probably the most important feature that you'll ever get in the series. And speaking of stealth, I do want to talk about the AI. AI has always been a little tricky topic because it isn't always the best. Let's be honest. In every video game, once you figure out the behaviors and programming that is implemented, you can kind of do your workaround, whether you're just playing casually or some type of speedrunner. And so the amazing Metal Gear elements with the ability of them spotting you, going into cover, calling up for backup, and then when the backup arrives, they'll group up, work together, fight you, or if you're hiding, they'll search for you. These are elements that I believe are some of the best in the series and must be implemented in the new game. And so those are things that I'm really loving and that I'm hoping, we'll explore a little deeper in another video. Then you go down part 1 and part 2, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, where you're able to hold up an enemy and take their dog tag. I believe this was a very important feature, in my opinion, because collectibles around the world are cool and all that, and it's fun, but there's nothing like an interactive, actual gameplay mechanic with enemies where it is a little more immersive. And so having that feature, but I would say more rewarding, more tags you get, different rewards will come with it, and extra bonuses maybe. But we'll talk about the actual video game combination in another video. This is more focused on some of the best features for gameplay mechanics and so on. But those are key, and those are very special, and they helped us have an amazing time in the game. Another key part that has to do with the AI is the CQC. Other video games have been taking some of the CQC and implementing it, and the Metal Gear CQC has evolved as well. As we continue to play the game, it's gotten better and better throughout the years. The only issue I have with that is that we need to see the next iteration be even better and bigger and more dynamic. And so, watching this series take over with CQC, whether you're able to hold the enemy up, you're able to grab them, use them as a shield, you can choke them out, slit their throat, slam them to the floor. A whole lot of very cool elements that we love, and I believe that needs to always be a staple. And this isn't a video about what is the only things that need to be in Metal Gear. There's so many different things to create the identity, but this one is one of those that's a must. Now, another feature that I want to talk about is the boss fights. Boss fights in Metal Gear, if we're honest, it's kind of like a boss rush to a certain extent. If you think about the traditional Metal Gear experience, you're basically going from boss to boss. In between that, you have your stealth and you have your situations, but a lot of the game has very, very memorable bosses and interesting things that are key. And so, talking about bosses, we won't go too deep, but one of the key things that I loved about a boss, aka Mantis, and possible future bosses is the fourth wall breaking and things like that throughout the game, where you break the fourth wall for the players, that I think is something that makes every Metal Gear pretty fun and interesting. Just small nods to the players that I think would be fun to have. Again, depending on how they want to play that and what their goal is, I do see that could be an amazing future if done right, especially in 2025 and beyond. Adding to that, there's plenty of other elements when it comes to the overall experience with this game. The biggest one is gadgets. Gadgets has been the staple since the 80s, 1987, 1990, and so on and so on. Each of the iterations for the Metal Gear series has had amazing gadgets. And even till this day, some games just don't match the gadgets. That can be a series on its own, just talking about each of the gadgets. And we will possibly end up doing that because the gadgets have been very interesting and they're not something you need. You can play through the game with your fist only, with a pistol only, or whatever challenge you want to run. But the amazing part is if you want to goof off and throw a box in there or use the empty magazine to take out enemies, hitting them with headshots with that, it's definitely doable for the most part. And those things honestly added replay value and as well as just a good variety within the gameplay. And it's one of the staples, in my opinion, that helped the series continue to evolve. And as we get a little deeper into more of the modern games and we talk about the game that I've been covering lately, we talk about Snake Eater and a lot of what it did. I think Snake Eater's story is probably one of the most well wrapped together stories. It was a standalone story and you didn't have to know the whole series. And I believe that Metal Gear somewhere along the line can lose that when you play part 4 and it's basically a fan service for the whole series. And even though I love part 4, I believe that them not being able to just have a standalone story for somebody new to the series the way Snake Eater does was an issue. So having that can be a key thing, in my opinion, that's going to change your perspective as a player when you get your hands on the future game where it's a standalone story. I don't care who is about. Of course, we'll do a video about each character possibly that we can explore. And there's plenty of characters that we can explore their stories and see who they are and what they went through. But in the end of the day, having the standalone where somebody purchased the game, a casual person, and they can enjoy. And so that to me is something important, and they did a good job in Snake Eater. And even though this video is not focused on making the new game that we will be doing a video series for, I wanted to kind of point that out because Snake Eater was so special. And that brings me into Snake Eater, the fact that they are taking a lot of key elements from the original Snake Eater, plus adding Phantom Pain's mechanics that I believe is the best in the series when it comes to just general mechanics from the player standpoint. You know, in part 3, you had very cool, small little details that would happen. If I destroyed an armory or the food supply for an enemy's base area, that region will no longer have the supplies. So they'll run out of food and you can hear their stomachs growling. They'll complain to each other, man, I'm hungry. And another guy will shoot you, but he won't have an extra mag. So when he tries to reload, he doesn't have any bullets because you destroyed the armory. These type of little details throughout the series. I mean, like there's endless amounts. I would have to make multiple videos. And that's why the series is starting off with just the idea of the cool things that are implemented in the series. And that was one of the biggest ones. And with Snake Eater, they have endless amounts of things that just are fun and very cool, small details that just make it a good time. So the question here with this new remake, this is kind of like a preview of what's possible in the future, taking the modern day elements and key things that you might love or know about the series. And so I wanted to pause and bring you into the Phantom Pain. And I'm here at an enemy area. The thing with the Phantom Pain is they have a lot of those details. If I was to wake this enemy up, he would try to call for backup. Of course, he's going to try to shoot me, but I could also destroy his radio and pretty much stop him from calling anybody. And then it'll just be me and him fighting, or anybody in this specific region that can see me. You can do things like destroy the generator so that they won't have any power and they can't call for backup either through their radios. You can destroy their radio comms inside one of their offices. There's plenty of cool little details in this game that they've added that's amazing. One of the best things about the Phantom Pain, regardless of what you want to talk about story or anything like that, is I can pull out my assault rifle, or I can switch to my sniper at any point, and the fluidity of being over the shoulder and being able to zoom in with all my weapons, being able to prone, crawl, could even do things like crawl and stand up while I'm focus firing. There's plenty, and I mean plenty, of different elements that are amazing in my personal opinion. And if I wanted to, I can just dive, which is not something in every game. Sometimes you want slower speed in some of the older games, but since it's an open world game, they made you run faster. But the point is, it's all in there, and I love that about this game. I'm able to use my gadgets, throw them, anything that I would look for. I want to throw a decoy, I just throw it. Again, like I said, there's a bunch of silly little things in here that we can use. So it's what, to me, makes it fun and interesting, to say the least. And I want to kind of talk about some of the older features that you guys might appreciate or you might not. The Kodak. To me, the Kodak was one of the best features as the times went on, right? In part 3 specifically, I used to capture an animal, whether it was a frog, a spider, or anything, and then just go to the Kodak, which allowed me to learn about that species. They would explain what it is, where it's from, all of that stuff. And of course, if you didn't know, how it tastes. And I fell in love with that feature. I spent hours just kind of going through whatever information was in there. And then also throughout the game, you're able to just go into and find new dialogue, funny dialogue that only you will find if you're somebody who wants that. If you don't want to, you don't have to bother. And those are the kind of little details that, to me, make the series special. And again, I'm rambling about tons of the new, old, and amazing stuff, but this doesn't even scratch the surface on all of the elements that actually make a Metal Gear game. Okay, from the funny humor to the amazing stealth, the dramatic cinematic experiences, all of this is a key factor and identity to the experience for a Metal Gear fan. And again, when I make a video specifically about the game I would make if I was to make a new one, we'll dive deep into that. But for now, the videos that we'll be doing, just exploring the different features that Metal Gear made them great. We'll start with the originals, all the way up from Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus Ground Zeroes and Peace Walker, and possibly maybe other spin-offs if you guys are interested. The question here is for you to leave a comment and express the things that you love and share them, because they will be a part of the video. And then if this video gets plenty of likes, we will make sure to continue the series throughout the year. We appreciate you guys. Hope you are enjoying. Go check out the next video that breaks things down even deeper. It should be popping up right now.